Listen, before we even get started, I need you to understand something real. Life don't care about your excuses. It don't care about your feelings. The streets don't care. The boardroom don't care. And time don't care either. Every day, it's moving forward with or without you. You either decide to step into that day with power, or that day is going to own you. I've seen people lose not because they weren't talented, not because they didn't have potential, but because they let their own mind talk them out of the fight. They woke up and forgot who they were. They let doubt, fear, and other people's opinions rewrite their story. And once you let that happen, it's over before it starts. See, the way I made it out wasn't just hustle. It wasn't just grind. It was what I was telling myself every single day, when the odds were stacked so high they were blocking out the sun. When you wake up, the first voice you hear is yours. And if that voice is weak, your whole day is weak. If that voice is scared, you're moving scared. If that voice is defeated, you're already losing. But when you lock in, when you wake up and you speak strength over yourself, when you remind yourself of what you're worth, what you're here for, and what you're not going to settle for, that's when everything starts to shift. Become untouchable in your mindset. You become dangerous in your focus. This ain't about hype. This ain't about empty motivation. This is about rewiring the way you think so your life can't be hijacked by fear, doubt, or anybody trying to hold you back. I'm about to give you the 9 things you need to be telling yourself every single day. And I promise you, if you take these and make them yours, the world is going to have to deal with a whole different version of you. The first thing you got to tell yourself every single morning is, own this day. Not, I hope it goes well. Now I'll see what happens. No. You wake up, you look in the mirror, and you say it like you mean it. I own this day, because if you don't claim it from the jump, somebody else will. And I'm not talking about just physically being awake. I'm talking about mentally planting your flag in the ground before the world even gets a chance to push back. I learned early that if you step into a day without direction, that day is going to push you around like you're nothing. People will throw their drama at you. Life will throw its problems at you. And before you know it, you're reacting to everybody else's mess instead of moving toward your own mission. That's how you end up tired, drained, frustrated, and feeling like you didn't get anywhere. But when you wake up and tell yourself, I own this day, you're setting the tone. You're telling your mind and in your spirit that you're not just living today, you're running it. Now, here's the thing. When you say you own the day, it doesn't mean everything's going to go perfect. It doesn't mean you won't get hit with challenges. It means you already made the decision that whatever comes, you're still in control of how you handle it. You can't stop the rain from falling, but you can decide whether you're going to stand there about getting wet, or you're going to keep moving until the sun comes back out. People think ownership is just about money, about possessions. That's surface level thinking. True ownership starts with your mindset. It's about owning your energy, your reactions, your discipline, your focus. You can be broke in your pockets and still be rich in ownership if your mind is locked in. And the crazy thing is, when you start owning your days, the money, the opportunities, the relationships, all that starts lining up because you're not living on defense anymore. I've seen too many people wake up, roll over, grab their phone, and immediately start scrolling through everybody else's life. You're literally handing over your morning, the most powerful part of your day, to somebody else's noise. You're letting the world decide how you feel before you've even told yourself who you are. Nah, that's backwards. When I wake up, before I even check anything, I tell myself what kind of man I'm going to be today. I set my own pace before the world tries to set it for me. When you own your day, you start seeing every hour like an investment. You stop wasting time on conversations that go nowhere. You stop letting negative people camp out in your head. You stop being sloppy with your goals. You move different because you realize your time is the most valuable thing you got. And you ain't letting anyone burn it for free. And let me tell you, when you start living like that, some people won't like it. They'll say you've changed, you're selfish, you're too focused. But here's the truth: the moment you start owning your day, you become a mirror to the people who are wasting theirs. You're showing them what's possible, and that makes them uncomfortable. Don't take it personal. That's just proof you're doing it right. Owning your day also means owning your mistakes. See, a lot of people want the power part, but not the accountability part. You can't claim you run your life if every time something goes wrong, you're blaming somebody else. If it's your day, it's your responsibility. You drop the ball. Own it, fix it, move forward. Stop carrying the shame, carry the lesson. And don't get it twisted. Owning your day doesn't mean you got to do everything at once. It's not about being busy. It's about being intentional. You can get more done with 3 focused hours than most people get done in 3 days if you know where you're going and you refuse to waste energy on distractions. The problem is most people confuse movement with progress. They're running around all day but going nowhere. When you own your day, every step has a direction. Here's another thing. Owning the day isn't about waiting for motivation. Motivation is like the weather. It comes and goes. Some mornings you're not going to feel it. But ownership means you move whether you feel like it or not. You've already decided it's your day, so you act like it. You put in the work, you make the calls, you train. You study, you show up. And by the end of the day, you feel good not because it was easy, but because you kept your word to yourself. You have to understand that this kind of ownership stacks. The more days you own, the more momentum you build. One day turns into a week turns into a month turns into a year. And before you know it, your whole life looks different. Not because luck showed up, but because discipline did. And discipline is just ownership in action. The real power of telling yourself, I own this day, every morning, is that it forces you to be present. Too many people are living in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's worries. You can't own a day you're not even in. When you claim today, you're saying, right now I'm locked in. Right now I'm making moves. Right now I'm building my future. And when you do that enough times, the future you've been dreaming about stops being a dream. It becomes reality. So tomorrow morning, before your feet even hit the floor, I want you to hear your own voice, not your doubts, not your fears, not your notifications, your own voice saying it with authority. I own this day. And then live like it. Protect your time, protect your energy, and refuse to hand the wheel over to anything or anyone that's not driving you towards your purpose. Because if you don't own your day, trust me, somebody else will. The second thing you got to tell yourself every single day is, I control my mind. My mind doesn't control me. Because if you don't get this one right, the rest doesn't even matter. Your mind is the most powerful weapon you got. But if you leave it on autopilot, it'll work against you instead of for you. And here's the wild part. Most people never even realize they've been living as prisoners inside their own head. See, your mind will try to feed you every excuse in the book. It'll tell you you're tired when you got more energy in the tank. It'll tell you something's too hard when it's really just uncomfortable. It'll try to replay old mistakes over and over like a broken record until you start believing that's who you still are. That's why you got to step in every morning and remind yourself, I run this. I'm the one making the decisions here. You got to understand, your brain is wired for survival, not success. Its job is to keep you safe, not to make you great. That's why it pushes you toward comfort zones, why it tries to protect you from risks, why it tells you to slow down when things get hard. But comfort zones are where dreams go to die. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're giving your mind the keys to your future and saying, drive me wherever you want. And guess what? It'll drive you in circles. When I started figuring this out, it changed everything. I stopped letting my first thought of the day dictate my mood. You ever wake up and just feel off? Like you don't even know why, but you just don't feel like doing anything. That's your mind testing you. That's the moment you either take control or let the day slip. And I'm telling you, once you start taking control in those moments, you build a mental toughness most people never touch. Here's the reality. You're going to have thoughts you don't like. You're going to feel fear, doubt, laziness. That's human. But controlling your mind doesn't mean getting rid of those feelings. It means not letting them drive the car. You can acknowledge the fear without letting it decide your next move. You can hear the doubt without letting it dictate your choices. You can feel tired without letting it convince you to quit. That's real control. And I know some of you might be thinking, yeah, but it's not that easy. You're right. It's not. It's a fight. Every single day, it's a fight. But it's a fight you can win if you decide to step in the ring. Most people don't lose because life was too hard. They lose because they surrendered their mind without a fight. They let old patterns, bad habits, and outside voices live rent free in their head until those voices became louder than their own. You got to clean house up here. If you've been feeding your mind garbage, negative people, gossip, bad news, all that drama, don't be surprised when garbage thoughts keep coming back. Your mind is like a garden. What you plant grows. You keep planting weeds, don't expect roses. But when you start planting seeds of discipline, confidence, vision, and faith, your whole mental landscape changes. And once the inside changes, the outside has no choice but to follow. Another thing, controlling your mind means controlling your focus. Some people aren't failing because they don't work hard. They're failing because they're working hard on the wrong things. They're distracted. They're chasing 10 different goals at once and never locking in on one long enough to see it through. When you control your mind, you stop chasing every shiny thing and you start building brick by brick. You start saying no to things that don't align with where you're going, even if they look good in the moment. And let's talk about self-talk for a second. The way you talk to yourself is shaping your reality every single day. If you're constantly telling yourself you're not ready, not smart enough, not talented enough, your mind's going to find ways to prove you right. But if you flip that and start telling yourself you're capable, resourceful, unstoppable, even before you believe it, your mind will start looking for ways to make that true. That's why athletes talk about mental reps. They're training their brain just as hard as their body because they know if their mind folds, the body will follow. Now, here's the hard truth. You can't control every thought that pops into your head, but you can control what stays there. It's like a bird flying over your head. You can't stop it from passing by, but you can stop it from building a nest in your hair. Same thing with negative thoughts. Don't fight them. Dwell on them. Just let them pass and get back to where your focus needs to be. The people who win long term are the ones who can master their inner world when everything outside is falling apart. They can walk through chaos and still move with purpose because their mind is anchored. And anchoring your mind isn't about ignoring reality. It's about deciding how you respond to it. You can have a storm outside and still have peace inside. That's the ultimate flex. Let me be real with you. There's no finish line to this. Controlling your mind is a lifetime commitment. You're going to have days where you slip. You're going to have moments where you catch yourself reacting instead of responding. That's normal. The key is catching it faster and getting back on track sooner. You might fall for a minute, but you don't stay down. That's the difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck. At the end of the day, your mind is either your biggest asset or your biggest liability. If you don't train it, it'll run wild. It'll sabotage your plans, wreck your discipline, and kill your dreams before they even get started. But if you take control, if you decide every single morning, I run this, then you become unstoppable. Because when you own your mind, nothing, not the critics, not the setbacks, not even your own doubts, can take you off your path. And that's why every morning, without fail, you remind yourself, I control my mind doesn't control me. Because the moment you forget that, you give away the steering wheel of your life. And I don't know about you, but I'm not letting anyone, not even my own worst thoughts, drive me anywhere I don't want to go. The third thing you got to tell yourself every single day is, nobody owes me anything. I'm responsible for everything. And listen, the second you let that sink in for real, you stop waiting and start moving. You stop expecting handouts. You stop blaming. You stop pointing fingers. And you start owning every single piece of your life, the good, the bad, and the ugly. A lot of people don't want to hear that. They want to believe someone's going to come along and fix their problems, give them the opportunity, open the door, change their situation. They want to believe it's somebody else's job to make their life better. But the truth is, no one's coming. No one's losing sleep over your dreams. No one's waking up thinking, let me make sure they win today. It's on you. And I'm not saying that to be cold. I'm saying that because the moment you accept it, you get your power back. If you're waiting on someone to save you, you've already given up control. But when you own the fact that it's all on you, then everything becomes possible, because you stop waiting and start acting. You stop complaining about the cards you were dealt, and you start figuring out how to play them better than anyone else. Here's the truth. Life is not fair. Some people start with more. Some people start with less. Some people get breaks early. Some gotta grind for years before they catch one. You can waste your life being bitter about that, or you can use it as fuel. Because at the end of the day, complaining about how unfair it is won't change anything, but getting up and doing something about it will. When you take full responsibility, something changes inside you. You stop making excuses. You stop saying, I can't because, and you start saying, how can I make this happen? You stop letting circumstances decide how far you go. And the crazy thing is, the more you own your life, the more you start to see opportunities you were blind to before. It's like once you stop blaming, your eyes open to the moves you can actually make. You ever notice how some people keep telling the same story year after year? If it wasn't for this person, I'd be further. If this didn't happen, I'd be doing better. If they gave me a chance, I'd make it. That's victim talk. That's somebody who's decided they're powerless. And you can't win if you see yourself as powerless. You can't build anything if you believe your life is in someone else's hands. When I started taking full responsibility for everything, even the stuff that wasn't technically my fault, I started winning more. Because here's the thing, if I take responsibility, that means I have the ability to change it. If it's someone else's fault, then I'm stuck. until they decide to do something different. And I'm not living like that. I'd rather carry the weight of fixing it than sit around waiting for someone to apologize or come through for me. You got to treat your life like a business. If the business fails, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. The boss still has to figure out the solution. And in your life, you're the boss. The sooner you start thinking like that, the sooner you start moving like a leader. And leaders don't sit around waiting. Leaders act. Don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean you can't get help. We all need help sometimes. But there's a difference between accepting help and depending on it. When you depend on help, you start building your life on something you can't control. And if it gets taken away, you collapse. But when you take responsibility, any help you get is just a bonus, not the foundation. The mindset of nobody owes me anything also keeps you from feeling entitled. Entitlement is dangerous. It makes you think you deserve things you haven't worked for. It makes you believe that just because you want it, someone should give it to you. And when they don't, you get angry instead of getting better. But when you kill entitlement, you replace it with gratitude for what you earn. And gratitude makes you work harder because you understand nothing is guaranteed. And let's be honest, we all have moments where we wish things were easier. We all have moments where we think, man, why me? Why is this happening? But those moments are where your mindset gets tested. You can either stay stuck in that thought, or you can flip it and say, all right, it's on me to turn this around. That's where you separate yourself from everybody else. Some of you are carrying stories in your head about how you can't succeed because of your past, because of mistakes, because of where you came from. But here's the truth. You can rewrite the whole thing. You don't have to be defined by anything you've been through unless you choose to be. The moment you decide, I'm not waiting on anyone, I'm taking control, you start rewriting the script. And that's when you realize you've had the pen in your hand the whole time. And I know what some people will say. That's easy for you to say. You don't know what I've been through. You're right. But I do know this. There are people who've been through worse and still made it. There are people who had everything going for them and until blew it. So it's not just about what you've been through. What you for and you decide to do from here. You can keep living in reaction to your circumstances, or you can start creating the circumstances you want. But that only happens when you stop expecting life to hand you something and start demanding more from yourself. Every day you wake up, you're either building or you're waiting. And waiting is just another word for wasting. So stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for someone to see your potential. Stop waiting for the right time. The right time is when you decide to move. The opportunity is whatever's in front of you right now. And the moment you stop expecting someone to give it to you and start figuring out how to take it, your whole life changes. Because the truth is, the world doesn't pay you for what you think you deserve. It pays you for what you go out and get. People who get it aren't the ones sitting around talking about what should have happened. They're the ones out there making it happen, no matter what. So every morning when you wake up, you remind yourself, nobody owes me anything. I'm responsible for everything. Because the second you believe that, you stop waiting on the world and you start running it. You can't move forward if you're dragging the past like it's a part of your body. I've seen too many people trying to run toward their future, but tripping over old failures, old relationships, old versions of themselves they should have buried a long time ago. That's why I'm telling you this. Every single day, you've got to tell yourself, I am not my past. Yeah, you've made mistakes. You've been hurt. You've been lied to. You've failed. But guess what? That's history. And history doesn't control you unless you keep giving it permission. Some of you are walking around replaying the same old story in your head like it's your favorite song. I should have done this. I could have been that. I messed up back then. And every time you hit rewind, you're robbing yourself of the life you could be living right now. That's like watching the same bad movie every night and wondering why you can't sleep. If you don't let go of the past, you'll never have enough space to grab hold of the future. You can't hold yesterday in one hand and tomorrow in the other. You got to drop one to hold the other tight. People love to remind you of your mistakes. Some of them don't even do it because they care. They do it because it makes them feel better about themselves. And if you're not careful, you'll start agreeing with them. You'll start wearing those old labels they put on you. The one who failed, the one who got played, the one who lost it all. No, rip those labels off. Throw them in the fire. The only label you need is survivor. And once you've survived, it's time to start thriving. Listen, life is going to keep testing you. But those tests are not meant to define you. They're meant to refine you. Every loss, every betrayal, every time you were counted out, that's not the end of your story. That's just a chapter. And when you keep reading the same chapter over and over, you never finish the book. Some of you need to close the chapter on who you used to be. You can't keep holding auditions for people who already failed their role in your life. You can't keep giving energy to what broke you. Because the longer you do, the longer you delay what's meant to build you. I'm not saying forget it all. No. Remember the lesson. Forget the pain. Use the memory as fuel, not as a prison. There's a difference between learning from your past and living in your past. Learning gives you wisdom. Living in it keeps you wounded. And if you're still walking around with open wounds from years ago, you can't be surprised when every step forward feels like it hurts. Every day, when you wake up, remind yourself, I am not who I was yesterday. You've grown. You've been through things that taught you strength. The fact that you're still here means you've already beaten every day that tried to take you out. Don't waste that victory by going back to the same thoughts, the same habits, the same fears. People will try to drag you back into the old version of you because that's the version they're comfortable with. But you're not here to make them comfortable, you're here to rise. Sometimes you've got to cut ties with people who keep you tied to the past. They might have been part of your story once, but they don't belong in the chapter you're writing now. And that's hard, because it's easy to stay around what's familiar. Even if it's toxic, it feels safe because you know it. But growth doesn't live in comfort. Growth lives in the unknown, in the risk, in the steps you take without knowing exactly where they lead. And you'll never take those steps if you've got your feet cemented in old regrets. I know some of you are thinking, but my past is too heavy. I've done too much wrong. I've been through too much pain. Let me tell you something. The most beautiful comeback stories come from the ugliest beginnings. It's not about where you start, it's about where you decide to finish. And you get to decide, not your mistakes, not the people who hurt you, not the ones who walked away. You decide how your story ends. But you can't rewrite the ending if you're stuck rereading the introduction. Every scar you've got is proof that you didn't quit. So instead of hiding them, wear them as armor. Let them remind you of what you've survived, not what you've lost. There's a freedom that comes when you finally stop caring about the opinions of people who don't even have the courage to live their own dreams. You've got to stop being a prisoner to someone else's version of you. They might know your past, but they don't get to define your future. Every time you look in the mirror, you should see someone evolving, someone who refused to stay where life dropped them, someone who took the broken pieces and built something stronger. Because that's the truth. The version of you that's walking today is stronger than any version of you that's ever existed. But you'll never fully realize that strength if you keep feeding the memory of who you used to be. So here's what I want you to do starting tomorrow morning. Wake up, stand in front of that mirror, and say, I'm done carrying what's not mine anymore. I release it. And then actually live like you believe it. Make choices that align with the person you're becoming, not the person you were. Walk like the weight is gone. Talk like the pain has no hold on you. Move like your future is waiting just around the corner, because it is. Don't waste one more second giving yesterday the power to own today.